Peace and love, family. Welcome back for another Sunday Hope and Healing session. I'm your host, Royce Fletcher Thomason, and at our Sunday Hope and Healing sessions, we bring encouragement, we bring support, we bring actual manifestation of healing utilizing a methodology, a profound methodology of healing referred to as Transcending the Matrix, which actually helps a person to more fully align their heart with the truth of love and blessing and manifest in an abundance of profound ways in terms of manifesting actual physical healing. That is in terms of elimination of physical pain, opening up new doors, clearing blockages, and all types of stuff. Jennifer Bliss, it's good to see you in the house today. Yes, and it's all love, all love. So I know we got started a little bit later today. It was questionable whether this was even going to happen. I'm in a new place. I moved yesterday, which was also my birthday. Internet still not set up. Stuff is everywhere. So I'm outside and broadcasting from my phone outside. That was the only way it was going to happen today. But we're not going to be here too long. But during this time that we do have together, and let's talk about that for a second. Today would be the natal day of a powerful sister, Linnell Johnson. Linnell and I ministered together. She would jam with me at sets that I have on Friday nights on Instagram. And she was just a powerful sister. And she passed her homegoing was yesterday. Her birthday would have been today. And we would always reach out to one another and wish one another a happy natal day. And in the midst of this, there have been a whole lot of other people who've been making their transition. A lot of people that I know and care about have a lot of people in their lives who've very recently made their transition. And you know, one thing about this thing that we call time, which really is, in reality, it is a construct of the mind. In reality, the essence of all that really exists is spirit. Time is the measure of physical object traveling through space, which is why we designate time according to the Earth's spinning on its axis. That's how we measure a day, and then the various segments broken down in a day. We measure it in terms of the Earth and its revolution around the sun, which is what we call a year, and then the breakdowns of that. And on a larger scale, there's a dispensation or an age, which is the time that it takes the solar system to travel throughout the entirety of the zodiac. But all of these things that we refer to as segments of time, yeah, they're all outside of the physical world. Time doesn't exist, and time is a construct, therefore, of the mind as it relates to physical embodiment. With that said, the time that we have here is precious. The time that we have here is very, very precious. And I turned 52 yesterday, and I noticed my experience of how time moves is that the more time I accumulate on the planet, the faster it seems to move. The faster it seems to move. Other people that I've talked with, have shared some similar things. And what I'd like to share during today's Hope and Healing session is let us be mindful of our time. In other words, let's learn to seize moments as they come. Because the reality is that no moment is promised. I have a friend and brother, also work with in ministry. We're sharing of a friend of his. Fell in the shower, gone like that, right? I know of another family friend slipped and fell down the stairs. Otherwise healthy, slipped and fell down the stairs. And I'm not saying this to put us in an anxious mindset or to be in a place of worry or concern or anything of that nature, but just to be mindful is that you don't really know how much time you have on this planet, nor do you know really how much time your loved ones have on this planet. And so, in the profound words of Sade, cherish the day, cherish the moments, cherish the moments. You know, all of life, really, if you think about it, if you look at it, is comprised of moments. And what are you doing with the moments that God has gifted you with? You know, sometimes we can be so busy, and believe me, I get it, because I got a lot of stuff to do. I got a lot of stuff to do, and a lot of stuff that, you know, in terms of the physical standpoint, that really kind of I can only do. Um, but independent of how busy you might get handling the busyness of life, please be mindful that while you're busy with life, that you're not letting life pass you by. Be mindful that in the midst of taking care of stuff, in the midst of tending to these different things that you need to be tending to be mindful to remember to live life, not just pass the time, but embrace the time that you've been blessed with. Today's September 24th. In 2 days from today, it'll be 20 years since the first day of the first Transcending the Matrix class, February 26th through 28th, 2023. And this time has just flown by. This time has just flown by. And yeah, there's a lot of good that's happened over that course of the last 20 years. There are a lot of people that have been reached. And I'll own the reality that there are a whole lot more that could have been reached. There are moments that I could have shared this wonderful work for 6.5 years. I didn't teach a single Transcending the Matrix class and didn't share. Well, I did share the work with some people, but we all have gifts. We all have God-given abilities. We all have things that we're passionate about. And those things that areas where we're talented in. A talent is a little different than a skill. A talent is something that's innate. It's something you're kind of born with. A skill is something that you develop. And so there are some people who are just naturally talented in certain areas. And as they work to develop those skills, they get even better and better at it. And something I kind of want to say is whatever natural talents you have are part of God's gift to you. How you develop those skills is your gift back to God. How you utilize what you've been divinely gifted is your gift back to God. And, you know, one thing that's beautiful about a gift is that when it's received, it brings a certain feeling of joy. Sometimes. Sometimes we don't really want the gift that we've been gifted. You know, there are certain things in this process of moving. I came across a graduation gift from when I graduated from high school from my mother. And to be honest with you, I wasn't able to fully appreciate that gift then. 6 years ago, pretty much started over from scratch after releasing everything after a hurricane. But that was one thing that I made sure that I held on to. There's very little that I have in terms of possessions that I've had for more than 6 years. And there have been things that have been lost in moves, things that I've released. But that's one particular thing that I still hold on to and that I still cherish. And if there is something that comes on some piece of paper, I put it inside that particular gift. If there's something that I cherish, I put it inside that particular gift because I know I'm always going to keep up with that because of what it came to mean to me. And there might be some giftings that you might have in your life, some God-given gifts that you have in your life that you might not have initially fully appreciated. Some gifts can feel like a curse too. You know, I heard a friend share when we were in college together that your misery is your ministry. Sometimes there are things that you might end up experiencing in your life that don't feel pleasant to you at all at the time that you're going through it. But it might be setting you up to for you to be the gift to somebody else who wouldn't be able to relate to that, or who would be able to find a certain comfort in you and what it is that you bring that others might not be able to relate to them in the same way because they haven't experienced anything like that. Lord knows that I've been able to stand in the gap for people on a number of occasions as a function of difficult things that I had been through, or things that, you know, it could be said that I'm a sensitive soul. I feel other people sometimes. I can feel their joy and I can feel their pain. And sometimes that's kind of like a double-edged sword. Sometimes, you know, it isn't very pleasant to experience. It doesn't always feel good to experience that, right? But it's put me in a position to be able to be a blessing to a whole lot of other people. To a whole lot of other people. I shared earlier, we'll be celebrating 20 years of Transcending the Matrix this week. Transcending the Matrix was born of me having been sickly all the time as a young person. And, you know, Western medicine not ever being able to do anything to help me. That was my experience. I'm not saying this is yours, and I'm not imposing that on you. I'm just sharing that was my experience. And as a function of that, I ended up being led and guided. I'm clearly sure that it was by God that I was guided and directed to come into the knowledge of the sorts of things that I share in the context of this work that is transcending the matrix. Right? And even the development of transcending the matrix came at a time where I didn't have electricity in my home for a year. I wasn't distracted by the other stuff I would have been distracted by. So I had the focus to be able to develop this methodology. There are a lot of things that might happen in our lives that we might be somewhat resistant to at first. Phew. There are a lot of things that we might find ourselves being resistant to at first, but things that God is really opening up a pathway or opening up a doorway or taking something that was uncomfortable to something that we would have found undesirable, something that we wouldn't have preferred for ourselves. But then it ends up showing up that that's where the huge blessing comes. That's where the huge blessing comes. Conversely, there are some things that appeal to our appetite, whatever we might have an appetite for. I did a year or two ago, did a couple messages dealing with the things that we have an appetite for. And a lot of times the things that we have an appetite for, whether it's physical food, type of activities we want to get involved in, the type of people we get involved in relationships with, a lot of times our appetite or our taste is developed by levels of brokenness within us. And we go with things that seem familiar to us, even though they may be profoundly unhealthy, even though they may be things that are destined to bring us pain. And conversely, we might feel a little bit averse to that which is actually good for us. And it isn't until we actually start experiencing some healing that our tastes change, And maybe there's even another way I can say that. The more we begin to love ourselves, we'll see that our taste changes from that which is destructive to us to that which is nurturing and healing and restorative and regenerative and nurturing and nourishing for us, right? This is true whether we're talking about food, whether we're talking about environments, whether we're talking about um, relationships. And sometimes, it can feel a little bit uncomfortable to step outside of, by definition, it can feel a little uncomfortable to step outside of what is our actual comfort zone. We have this thing that we consider tried and true. I was talking with somebody uh, just about as long as I've known them. They've had issues with their phone, and they've kind of kept the same kind of phone. And I've made suggestions of another kind of phone. They have an aversion to that kind of phone. Um, the kind of phone that I happen to have. I haven't had problems with my phone, but this person has continually had problems with theirs, but they don't want to really make that switch because it's unfamiliar. I'm using this as kind of a light example, but the reality is that that shows up with a lot of us. We have this work that is transcending the matrix. I have seen thousands of people experience healing through this work. I've seen thousands of people experience healing through this work that is transcending the matrix. Some people are open and receptive to this work. Some people, it's just a little unfamiliar to them, so they choose not to uh, avail themselves of the opportunity that this work of transcending the matrix makes available, and that's okay. The point of this isn't to impose it on anybody. That's not the point at all. This is simply something that we offer in a spirit of genuine love as an alternative to actually help bring some manifestations of healing in a person's life in whatever area of a person's life one may need or desire it. And it's a way of expressing love and compassion. But love is it's patient and it's kind. It doesn't seek its own way. It doesn't try to impose itself, right? For those who are ready, it's available. For those who aren't, then it's perfectly okay for them to follow whatever path they choose. But if you do choose this route, I want to tell you it can be a very, very, very empowering experience for you, whether as just a recipient of the healing or as a practitioner of it. And I want to say it's particularly empowering for those who are transcending the matrix practitioners or initiates of this work. The amount of healing that will take place in you if you do the work and you honor the oath that you take, which is a prerequisite of this training. We've got it coming up next weekend, which is a lot for me personally, being in the midst of this move and all this, and uh, working on this 20-year of Transcending the Matrix celebration and class. But it's all good. Again, cherishing those moments, embracing those moments. It's easy to put things off, but it can be a profound blessing to embrace and allow oneself to receive the blessings that are available in the moment. Because guess what? One thing about moments is that when they're gone, they're gone. You can't take them back, but you can seize them when those moments arise and make the best of them. Anyway, Jennifer Bliss and whoever else has been here today, so glad for your presence here in the Sunday Hope and Healing session, yes, but just on the planet. It takes a brave soul to be born on planet Earth. I don't usually kind of go out there in this direction, but I am going to today. If you resonate, wonderful. If not, so be it. I have lived in other places other than Earth. And this is a particularly difficult place to be, at least for me it is. You know, there's a lot of heaviness that's here, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, a lot of people kind of missing the point of life and living out life in a way that doesn't regard life itself, you know, and is thus counterproductive. Have more of a parasitic relationship with other people and the earth itself, you know, and that's unfortunate. And so somebody like me that's just not my vibe at all, a very different vibe. This isn't always a pleasant place to be. It's not. But the time that we're here, during these few specks of time that you're here, during these moments that you have here, please embrace it for everything that it offers. There's darkness, apparently, but there's also an abundance of light. There's selfishness, there's hatred, there's bigotry, but there's also profound degrees of love. There are wars, there's violence, but there are also places of peace. My prayer is, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin in and with me. And then let me be a steward of that peace, which really ultimately is the mission of Transcending the Matrix. It's a global peace mission, folks. I've seen people of all different backgrounds, ages, religious affiliations, all these different things that we use to separate ourselves from each other. I've seen it work on all of them, all across the globe. Because in reality, we are one. Though we may worship differently, though we may eat differently, though we may vote differently, though we may love differently, though we may live differently in terms of various aspects of our lifestyle. Though there may be things that one can afford that another can't. And all of these other things, in the spirit, we're all one. In the spirit, we're all one, independent of all of these other things that seem to divide us. It doesn't change the truth that we're all one, right? And in that spirit of oneness, I'm going to bid you adieu. I want to offer you encouragement as we endeavor to enter into that sustainable state of supreme satisfaction. And until next time, I send you forth with peace and love.